In this video, which is part 2 of a 3-part series, we're building the $500 craft brewery yeast propagator. In this video, we're going to clean, sanitize and sterilize our propagator to ready to make it aseptic, ready for a propagation. Let's get brewing. No, let's get propagating. In the first episode of this series, we actually went and built the $500 yeast propagator. There it is, sitting right there behind me. Really good bit of kit, very, very simple to build, not very expensive at all. If you're actually watching this video for the first time, go and watch part 1 first. Come back and see me and we'll continue on with making this yeast propagator amazing. And in the next video, what we're going to do is we're actually going to brew some wort and we're going to propagate some yeast. One of the things that's really important now is we need to be aseptic because we're doing something that would be considered high risk in a brewery, as in potentially introducing some spoilage bacteria or yeast into a brewery. We need to make sure that our propagation is 100% aseptic, okay? This is really, really important, right? If you mess this up, you are going to infect beers in your brewery. I'm here in my garage. You might think that I'm dealing with homebrew equipment, but this stuff from Kegland is absolutely amazing. And we can clean it and sanitize it and get it ready to go. So if you're a home brewer or you've been brewing commercially and that sort of thing, you probably do CIP and SIP, which is clean in place and sanitize in place. Now, that's good if you're going to be pitching yeast onto wort and brewing beer, but it's not good enough if you're going to be propagating yeast because the risk level is so much higher. So in this particular application, what we need to do is we need to clean, which basically means removing all of the soils that might be on our propagator. We then need to sanitize, which basically means to kill any yeast or bacteria that might be sitting on surfaces. And for some of this equipment, we've then got to sterilize as well, which basically means we're going to heat up some parts of the yeast propagator to about 125 degrees Celsius at a pressure of about 150 kPa. And what that does is autoclaving is basically heating above boiling point, so that if there's any microorganisms sitting on the surface of the equipment, that it is dead, right? And we don't accidentally infect our propagation and therefore our ultimate beer. What we're going to do is we're basically going to break down our propagator. We're going to break it down into its parts. So basically we're going to have the pressure kit, we're going to have all of our hoses, and we're also going to sterilize the wort line. I'm going to brew some wort on my Braumeister, and we're going to sterilize that as well. Okay, so first up, let's get to cleaning. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to disconnect everything. So off comes our air supply there, off comes our vent hose, like so. That can just sit there. Okay, I'll just unscrew this that way. That should come off nice and easy. Alright, so the parts we're going to be cleaning is we're going to be cleaning the Firmzilla itself. We're going to be cleaning the hoses for the dip tubes, so the float ball and the aeration stone, and then we're going to put it back together and we're going to then make sure the insides of all hoses are clean, and then we're going to sani them, rinse them, sani them, and that sort of thing. Right, so before we dive into cleaning, sanitizing and autoclaving the yeast propagator, I just want to address a couple of things that might trigger some of the haters out there, and it's important that we just establish some context before we move on with getting this yeast propagator ready to propagate yeast. So firstly, you'll notice that I'm here and I'm in my garage. Now, why am I in my garage and not a commercial brewery? Well, the answer is pretty simple, is that it's really difficult to shoot video in a working commercial brewery. If I go in, take my camera or take my gear, take my lighting, all that sort of stuff into a commercial brewery, I'm going to get in the way really, really fast, and I just don't want to do that to my friends or my industry colleagues. So here I am in my garage. Now, What that's going to lead to is you're about to see me cleaning and sterilising the yeast propagator with homebrew chemicals. So I'm going to be using sodium bicarbonate and I'm going to be using phosphoric acid sanitizer, and that's going to trigger a lot of people out there as to, why are you using homebrew chemicals? You can't do that if you're going to propagate yeast. I know that. The reason why that and would I actually use homebrew chemicals in a commercial setting? Absolutely not. Not in the slightest would I put large amounts of beer at risk as a result of using homebrew chemicals. However, I'm here in my garage and it's not safe for me to use commercial brewery cleaning chemicals here like caustic and peracetic acid sanitizer. So I have to use homebrew chemicals just to keep myself safe. Can't store them here, can't use them here, don't have the PPE. It's just not safe. So I'm going to use homebrew chemicals instead. So before you get triggered and go and hit the comments section, just know that there's some context behind what I'm about to do. And so let's just dive in and clean, sanitize and autoclave the yeast propagator. Here I am in my laundry sink. Yes, I know there's going to be a few haters out there that are going to say, hey, you can't do that, it's going to be not aseptic and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, good, go make your own propagator. So really, really simple. I'm just going to put some cold water into the Firmzilla all-rounder. Only a couple of litres. I've got my cleaner, which is sodium percarbonate. It's basically what's in dishwasher powder. Does the trick. And shout out to Kegland, which is a no-rinse sanitizer. So really simple, just a little bit of sodium percarbonate. Sodium percarbonate's just basically a mild caustic anyways. Does the trick. Alright, just about a tablespoon in there. I'll then grab my pressure kit. Pop the pressure kit on, like so. There we go. On goes the lid. Just make sure that's done up nice and tight. And then all I've got to do is basically give it a bit of a shake. Now, if you find that the Firmzilla is pretty heavily soiled and might have a tide line or something like that from the last propagation that you've done, what I recommend you do is grab a clean cloth, absolutely brand spanking new, don't reuse one. Remember, we've got to be as aseptic as possible with the Firmzilla all-rounder, but we can't autoclave it, okay? So we have to be just super careful. So brand new one, straight out of the packet. When it's finished, chuck it away or use it for something else. And you can wipe down the inside. I've just popped a little bit more water in there, okay? So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to grab the plastic bag that the carbonation stone came in, so I don't touch the carbonation stone. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the aeration stone from the propagator. Off she comes. Right, so back in the bag. I haven't touched it with my fingers, that's super important. Right, and so basically where the aeration stone is basically a straight up drop tube now, and that means that I can clean the inside of that aeration stone tube. And it needs more water in it in order to do that, okay? So let's pop some more water in there. I've got some sodium percarbonate in the Firmzilla all-rounder, and I've taken the carbonation stone, aeration stone, let's call it, off the end of the dip tube there, because what I want to do is I actually want to pass some of that sodium percarbonate through the dip tube. And so what I need to do now is basically go and plug in some CO2 and push the liquid out. So I've got my party tap here, just got a corner keg fitting on one end and Bronco tap on the other, and I'll hook up some CO2 and we'll push out the sodium bicarbonate. Alright, so I've got some gas hooked up here, so I'll gas it up, let's see what happens. Beautiful, okay. Now to flush the bicarbonate through the aeration stone. Just leave that there to soak for a minute. And now I'll do the floating dip tube. There we go. Okay. I'll leave that soak for about 20 or 30 minutes and then we'll empty it out and rinse it off. Okay, so it's been about 20 or 30 minutes or so. So now all I've got to do is basically degas the propagator, empty out the bicarbonate that's in there. I'll give it one final shake and that sort of thing as well, just to get some good mechanical cleaning happening here. And then we'll give it a rinse. Better use the old oil filter spanner that comes with this thing. I'm just going to put this in this clean jug while we're waiting. What I'll do is I'll actually just go and put some sanitizer straight in, and I'm going to give it a good amount, probably a little bit more than you normally would, just because we're trying to be a little quite aseptic here. So how much did I just put in there? About 15 mils into about sort of 15 litres of water. That's probably a lot. There we go. And on goes the lid. Don't stress too much about me touching it. We are going to deal with that shortly through the autoclave and some ethanol. Alright, so full of sanitizer now. Let's give that a shake. Alright. Now we'll hook up the CO2. And we'll push some of this sanitizer out with the CO2. I'll do the dip tube for the floating ball. Now I'm going to leave this for about 20 to 30 minutes just to sanitize, because it needs that contact time for it to do its thing. Have to be especially careful with our sanitation and that sort of thing. So I'm going to leave this for 20 minutes, come back, and then we'll be ready to autoclave all the parts for the yeast propagator. Okay, so it's been about 20 to 30 minutes. I've left the sanitizer on and the sanitizer's done its job. So I know that the inside and the outside of both of the dip tubes have been sanitized very, very well with pretty strong sani. So now what we need to do, so our first step was cleaning, removing soil. The second step is sanitizing, that's what we've done now. The next step that we need to do is sterilizing, okay? So pretty much everything in this yeast propagator build can be autoclaved and sterilized, okay? The only exception is the Firmzilla All-Rounder itself, okay? So we've given it a really good sani and a really good clean. I'm pretty confident that that's not going to cause an issue with any foreign micro. So I'm just going to leave this here, and what I'm going to do is I'll get everything set up and we'll get ready to autoclave all of the parts for the yeast propagator. Hey, before we fire up the autoclave, let me just quickly tell you about my free Facebook group. It's called Quality Focus Pro Brewers. Over there, I post tons of bonus content for professional brewers, and it's also a great place for you to ask a brewing technical question or out all of the BS. Link in the description below. Time to get everything ready to autoclave. So what we're doing when we're autoclaving is we are heating up all of the parts to about 126 degrees Celsius and 150 kPa for about 20-25 minutes or so. That's going to be enough to kill any foreign microorganism that could potentially live there, to make sure that we're actually sterilising in addition to our sanitising step. So what we need for autoclaving is we need this. So basically we need the parts that we're going to be autoclaving. So I've got sitting here the stir bar. This has been cleaned and has been sitting in sanitizer. This is our tube that comes out of the aquarium pump. I've got some aluminium foil here, and I've also got this stuff, which is autoclave tape. If you have a really good look at it, basically what it does is once it gets up to autoclave temperatures, it actually gets some black and white, black stripes on it. So you can actually tell when something's been autoclaved, okay? So, and for my autoclave itself, I have this. This is my autoclave. This is the lid that comes with it. This did not come from Kegland. I got this from eBay, and so basically you can see it's got a pressure gauge on the top, and it's very, very well sealed with these with those wing nuts there. What I did get from Kegland is this 4000 watt variable voltage adapter. The reason why you need that is you need to, once you've heated up the autoclave and it gets up to temperature, you need to turn it down to basically, this particular model needs to be turned down to maintain a temperature. So hence I've got the variable voltage thing there. So what I'm going to do is I've got some water sitting in the bottom of the autoclave. Just going to turn it on, and I'm going to crank this right up to heat. You see the display there saying it's 232 volts. And you can hear the autoclave heating up now. I'm going to let that heat up for a couple of minutes. And what we're going to do over here is we're going to wrap up all of our parts, and also the pressure kit as well for the Firmzilla all-rounder, and we'll get it ready to autoclave. Okay, so while the autoclave is heating up, I'm going to get all the bits and pieces ready to chuck into the autoclave. So really, really simple. All I need to do is I just need to grab some alfoil, sheet of alfoil like so. This is one part. Into the alfoil. Just loosely wrap it up, it doesn't have to be tight. Now, the reason why we're putting these things in alfoil is so that once they come out of the autoclave, that they're actually protected by the alfoil until we're ready to use them at the very last minute. So I'll get some autoclave tape here. It's just like, looks like masking tape, but it's a hell of a lot more expensive. And just one bit ought to do it, and that one's wrapped up, ready to go. All right, let's get the rest of them all wrapped up. The magnetic stir bar. And let's get the pressure kit. Okay, so I've got the pressure kit here, and I'm touching this, but this is going to be okay because basically I'm going to be about to be autoclaving it. So we need to put the carbonation stone or the aeration stone back onto the pressure kit. Right, so our pressure kit's now completed again, and then I just carefully wrap it up. Now, as you can see, it's a little bit too big for one piece of aluminium foil, so I just get a second one, just double wrap it. Bit of autoclave tape. This stuff was $12 a roll, can you believe that? Unbelievable. Okay, I noticed that my autoclave's just coming to the boil now. Right, so we've got our sterile air hose, our pressure kit, and our magnetic stir bar. All ready for the autoclave. Let's go chuck them in. The autoclave's come to the boil now. I've just got it sitting on a little bit of a simmer there, just while I get it all loaded up. So if I take the lid off here, you can see it's all steaming and ready to go. Let's get it all loaded up. So in goes the pressure kit, stir bar, and the sterile air hose. All good to go. So you'll see that the Firmzilla is just sitting there. It's open, and I don't want it to be open, even though it's full of sanitizer at the moment. So I've got a piece of alcohol. I'll give it a bit of a spray with some ethanol. Pop that over the top. And that can happily sit there while we autoclave our bits and pieces. Now, safety first, I'm just going to put my gloves on because this is very hot. Alright, so I can see that steam's now starting to come out of the manual pressure relief valve, so I'll just flick that shut and start to build up pressure. And once it gets to about 150 odd kPa, that's 126 degrees Celsius, I'll turn the voltage down and I'll start the timer. So the autoclave's coming up to temperature now. You can see that the pressure is up to a little over 100 kPa. I'm going to take that out to up to about 140 odd kPa, and then what I'll do is I'll turn the voltage down. So while I'm waiting for the autoclave to do its thing, you can see that I've emptied out the sani. I've left the foam in there because it doesn't really matter and it's still practically sani. And I've left a piece of alfoil on top of the Firmzilla All-Rounder. That's actually good to keep it that way even overnight if you want to. So it's ready to receive wort. Okay, so as you can see, the pressure's right up now. So what I'll do is I'll turn the voltage down to about 60 odd, works for this thing. $64, there we go, 63. Alright, so I've just turned that right down. You can see that you can hear that the autoclave has quietened right down, and it's just enough electricity just to maintain the pressure. It's about 2 PM and we'll give it 25 minutes. If you want the full kit list on how to put together the $500 yeast propagator, head to rockstarbrewer.com/yeast propagator, and you can download the PDF with all of the plans and the recipe for the wort for propagation and that sort of thing. Okay, so it's been about 20-25 minutes. The autoclave's been sitting at about 140-150 kPa. We're done. I'm going to turn off the autoclave and we'll depressurize it and unload it. Going to degas the autoclave now. Got to be super careful. You can leave this for a while if you want to. I got a beer drink, so let's just degas it now. So safety first, get some gloves on. And I'll get my special screwdriver. All right, that's the bulk of the pressure out of it. Let's open it up. All right, so there we go. Now, let me just plonk that there. Alright, let's have a look at what we got here. So, everything's still in the aluminium foil, okay? And as you can see, our autoclave tape has got the black stripes on it now. And so that basically tells us that the contents of these foils are basically sterile and ready to use on the propagator. If you want the plans for the yeast propagator, head to rockstarbrewer.com/yeast propagator, and there's a PDF download link there, and you can go and grab the plans and the recipe for the wort and all that sort of thing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.